If you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or and/or hang around and we'll address them after the slide presentation is over. So if you'll mute yourself again, we'll open with prayer. Let us pray. Blessed and loving Lord, we do come before you today with great joy in our hearts. Michelle talks about having people who are new in her church and just keep on coming, and that's just what we want. It's just a joy to hear that from anyone. We ask that you be with us and to help us to accomplish what's necessary. Help us be the ministers these people need so they too can find a spiritual home that's just right for them. Amen. All right, let me see. If I go down here to share screen first, that works better. Beginning. Okay. For a change, I think I got it working. Is there, Shirley, you seeing this? Okay. Shirley's in another room, so she can yell to me without unmuting herself. But I have a habit of turning it on and forgetting to do the share screen first. So anyway, today we're talking about the intrigue stage, what you might want to call promotion. And what we'll do is we'll talk very briefly about the background for everything, and then we'll get into the argument to the details. And Shirley, remind me that slide 2 has a typo on it. But to know that our overall goals are not to increase attendance or budget, but to help people grow closer to God. And that's I say this every time, but I can't overstress the importance of it. When we focus on attendance or budget, we're focusing on ourselves. We're being selfish. And people pick up on that. So anyway, our goals for today is to remind ourselves why it is difficult to reach people, and yet there is great potential. So kind of the background stuff. And then just talk about the overall program before moving into the intriguing stage. Our overall process to reach out to new people. And you've all seen this before, but I just think it's one I have to remind you of, because as I went through the slides this morning, I realized how many different things I talk about. And I can easily see people feeling overwhelmed, and I don't want that to happen. There's probably some of it's going to happen, but I just want to call it out to you. And the neat thing about what I'm talking about today is, and I'm sitting here thinking about this, there's probably, if you were to do everything on all these slides, you're probably looking at 8, maybe at most 10 hours of work. So, if you can divide that up among people and spread it out over a month, that's not a whole, that's doable, I think, for many, many places. So I don't want you to overwhelm yourself and then just stop. I want you to know you're never alone. I'm always here to help you. That's my passion. And that the only time I'll be upset is if you stop because you are confused. The most important thing is what we'll actually talk about in more detail next week, which is to build relationships. But we'll talk more about that as we go through today, too. Language, just a reminder, we don't talk about visitors, or in the case of a yard sale, purchasers, or anything like that. We only have guests. And if we get our head around that, we've accomplished most of what we need to think about. And today it's particularly important to remember that even those who display at the blessing of the animals are guests. So we don't greet people, we host. We try never to be aggressive, but only assertive. And I've had people say, well, we never... If you've ever gone into a church and had the greeter, quote, encourage, unquote, you to fill in the guest book, that, to me, for many cases, comes across as aggressive. They're standing there daring you not to fill it out. Never use jargon without explaining it. And, we can use these words. They're part of who we are. But we just need to be careful enough to make sure people understand what they are. So anyway, why don't people love us anymore? Why won't they talk to us? Well, too many times we're behaving as if we're still in the 50s or 60s when church was so central to community that all you had to do was get a building, announce the service times, and people showed up. And maybe that was good. We can discuss that over a beer or a cup of coffee sometimes, but it doesn't matter because it's no longer true. And this has become my favorite slide. This is when I asked my high school granddaughter, who loves to get into graphics. So I was talking to her, and I asked, why would I connect with the church I believe was the sentence I gave her. And I asked her to put this together. And I don't think that's by any means not representative of not just her generation, but lots and lots and lots of people. The self-righteous on the upper right kind of gets to me. The stagnant on the lower right are words I wouldn't have originally come up with. Certainly disrespectful, arrogant, hateful are words that you would, based on what people see in the news, you come up with and hear about. And these are what we have to overcome. And if we forget we have to overcome these, we're going to accomplish much less. And this is the form. You've seen this before. Just encourage you to talk about this in your churches. It could be a coffee hour, it could be a vestry meeting, could be whatever. What are we doing that shows we're not hypocritical, for example, or we're not anti-intellectual? How can we get that across? And simply making a post that says we're not anti-intellectual is not going to probably have much impact. So we got to talk about how to get those better impressions across to people. And I won't spend a lot of time on this. I've shown it to you before. Michelle, I don't know if you've seen it before, but anyway, this is a survey that the Episcopal Church did. You can find it at episcopalchurch.org. And as I've pointed out, these ones on the right are what the non-religious think. And, I'm not surprised. They think 55% think we're hypocritical, 54% judgmental, etc. These over here on the left are the ones that get to me. These are the ones that the impressions Christians have of other Christians and churches. And yes, it says 57% say we're giving, that Christians are giving, but that means 43% of Christians didn't list giving as a characteristic of Christians. So we have a bad impression even within ourselves. Now, my suspicion is, and I haven't dug into this far enough to know how they pick their people, my suspicion is a lot of those people are people who say they're Christian but don't attend church because they're disgusted. They're what some people call the dones, D-O-N-E. They're done with church. They're still Christian, but they're done with church. And so this is the question. Would you want to be part of a group of people that's describing? And the good news is this is not a true picture of your church, but our audience thinks it's a true picture of you. So we have this opportunity. It's actually a great opportunity to change their minds about your church. They come for the event, but in doing so, provide us with the opportunity, and I have that bold and underscored, that we have the opportunity to communicate. Most of the time, we don't do it. They come to the yard sale, for example, and all we're interested in is how much money they spend. But they had appeared before us and given us an opportunity, and we had just rejected the opportunity. The blessing of the animals is similar, though we get a little bit of a chance just automatically to say something about ourselves through the service itself, but we don't really work at it. And that last week's, we talked about this a lot. So if you didn't see last week's, please go back and look at it. The idea is we don't want to waste this opportunity. This is another one very quickly. And for the sake of argument, we can say it breaks into about a third. A third of people have a low spiritual openness, a low willingness to talk about spirituality. Now, that includes the atheists and the agnostics, but it also includes a lot of people who are done with church, but also just done with Christianity. They may still call themselves Christian. They may even pray from time to time, but they aren't interested in being part of a community because they don't have any trust in the community. And then 39% have moderate interest. And that's our audience, if you will. That's likely to be people who are willing to talk but don't have a spiritual home. And then roughly a third have a high openness. They're mainly people who already attend church on some regular basis. So the 39%, that's a lot of people near you have a moderate openness to talk to you. Now, I've always used 1/3 as kind of the number, and it's somewhere in that ballpark. Nobody has it precisely. So what we have is about 90% of Americans believe in a higher power. 25 to 35% have a fulfilling spiritual home. And then, so in summary, something like 1 in 3 people are willing to talk. They're not anxious. They're very cautious. They already have an overloaded calendar. They're not ready to attend on Sunday. But if you approach them with love, they're willing to talk, willing to open up a conversation. So this is, as you recall, this is the basic flow. We have the 3 phases. First is to intrigue people. That is to get them to look at us. Just start by getting them to look at us. Then interact with us. And then finally build a relationship with us. We'll be talking about the intrigue phase mainly today. And this could happen quickly. And that's particularly with the previously churched. But often it takes many months, even a year or more. And that's why it's so important that we keep in touch, because we've got to be there when they're ready. When we're ready may not be when they're ready. And in that case, it doesn't matter if we're ready or not. We have to be there when they're ready. Stage 3 is build relationship, which is the one we'll talk about in detail next week. But I just want to call it out that that's the most important one by far. Because if we don't build a relationship, the odds the guests will connect with us are very small. And even without any special effort, we do have guests from time to time at Sunday services, special events like the Blessing the Animals, yard sale, bazaars, et cetera, et cetera. And if we don't try to get the people's contact information and build a relationship, those guests become ghosts drifting through our consciousness. They're there for an hour or two, and that's the end of it. And I know people say, well, it is possible for somebody to make the jump from yard sale buyer or Blessing the Animal attendee to actively minister with us. That's not easy, but it's certainly possible if we make the effort. And this slide I kind of like, because this is what we do. We make the guest feel like a ghost that was just unseen and not paid attention to. So moving on to the real focus for today, intriguing people to notice us. And what we're going to talk about is what we're trying to accomplish, some basic principles, social media, news media, what are we already doing, and direct approach. What are we trying to accomplish? Well, our primary objective is not attendance at this event. Our primary objective is to introduce the church to the community and build good impressions of the church, whether or not the people come. And we hope they will. But we can leave a good impression even if they don't. So what we're trying to do is give them a habit of wanting to pay attention to us. And one of the biggest problems we run into is leadership in the church that's discouraged because there's no obvious immediate results. Well, there's a good possibility there won't be. It may take time. Secondarily, we're interesting them in the event as something that would be good to attend. So the first objective is to interest them in the church. The second one is interested in this event. Then seek ways to tell them about our church. And then fourth, we invite them to attend. And it's very important we invite them. We just don't announce the event. We assume they feel invited because we put up a notice on the website or the Facebook page that says we're having a blessing of the animals. That's just an announcement. That's not an invitation. Now, some people will hear it as, oh, I can go, but we haven't made that clear. Think of it as a funnel. And it's very easy to get your post before 10,000 people. And we're going to talk about how easy that is. But out of that 10,000, only a small number will be interested or intrigued by what you have to say. And a smaller number will keep looking at us. So if you notice the funnel, you start off very broad and you start narrowing down. But over time, with relatively little investment, we can connect with people. And that's not a relationship yet. It's just connecting. So just think of this. If 99.9% of those original 10,000 never connect, that means 10 new families have connected. And for most churches, 10 new families is a pretty good response in a year or less. But this is not a one-time effort. It's not something we take once, because it'll likely take multiple actions to influence those 10 families. One post is not likely to do it. Our hope with the one post is they're interested in looking at the next one. And over time is when we build that good relationship again. So again, in summary, our goals are to have people attend, have people glad they came, have people learn about your church. And that's the one we almost always miss, even more than getting their contact information. Learn about your church. And like I say, last week, I talked about that a lot. And I'll give you that link in a minute. And then get their contact information. So some of our basic principles. We're going to get into some details in just a few seconds, but I want to lay out the basics. The first step in all promotions is grab their attention. Every person, and you think about this, is bombarded with thousands of messages every day. Every time you see a person, it's possible, whether you know them or not, it's possible for you to pay attention to them. Every time you see a story on the news, every time you see anything, the possibility is for you to take a moment and really focus on that. Well, we've got to break into that list of thousands and get to the point where they're paying attention to us, at least for a little bit. Church is not high on most people's priority list. In fact, it's probably not a priority. So we need to find something that grabs a person's attention and then a message that keeps their attention. You have about a half a second to grab their attention before their mind has moved on. And again, think about walking down the street and you see somebody and then you move on to the next person. You can't even remember who the first person you saw was because they didn't grab your attention. Then you have about 3 to 5 seconds to keep their attention. If you've gotten their attention, they'll give you a little bit of time to see if you're worth paying attention to. So we're into graphics. With only a few words. A lot of words just don't get across in half a second or even 3 to 5 seconds. So questions work much better than statements. Announcing the blessing of the animals is mildly interesting. Calling it a pet festival is a bit more interesting. Want to enjoy time with other pet owners. That'll grab more attention because it's a question. People tend to want to answer a question. And they have to pay attention to it. And, these principles apply to anything. I'll keep talking about the blessing of the animals, but the basic principles apply on Sunday morning, anything at all. So as I say, your next step, you have to keep their attention. And unfortunately, what most churches do is they put their emphasis on their address and service times. Those are of no importance. They're of zero importance. They're a turnoff until the person has decided they are interested. And this applies to anything you do. The headline and opening sentence will determine if you meet any of your goals. So you want to make them exciting. And if the opening sentence is St. Welcome Episcopal Church, there's a good chance you've lost them before they get to the next word. So things like, we can't promise your pet will behave better, but you never know. Churches have a long focus on caring for the environment, including animals. That one's important, but I don't know if I'd use it. I wrote it. I might not use it. In honor of St. Francis, we will host a pet festival, which include displays by many animal concerns organizations and a chance to have your pet blessed, plus giveaways. That is not the opening sentence. That is, you've got their attention. This is the 3 to 5 second type of. Notice, though, I got to the words pet and animal in other half a second. Because if I grab their attention at first, then they'll at least understand the church is concerned about animals, whether they attend that day or not. I said it earlier. Our first goal is to get people interested in us. So then we maintain their attention. As I say, that one phrase probably is in the 3 to 5 seconds. Once we've done that, then we've got 20 to 30 seconds, maybe that long, to get them interested in the event, whether they ultimately attend or not. Attendance is well down the priority list. Your address, times, dates are still not essential. They only become important once the person decides they want to come. So the question is, what would interest them? And I find it helpful to imagine a person when I'm doing this. So I imagine them as a person who does not know your church and has a somewhat negative impression of churches in general. And that's back to that negative slide. Festival is always an intriguing role. A festival focused on pets and including a blessing of yours. Displays and funds for adults and children. If you want a photo of your pet or stuffed animal would be blessed, that you need to check with your clergy before you put it up. And then you can see our website and Facebook page for more details about attendees, the vendors. So social media, whether you're encouraged about social media or you hate it, this is your most effective mechanism, particularly for the dollars spent, because you can get so much for nothing without spending a penny. Now is when you provide the details. Once you've attracted them and got their interest, they're toward the bottom of what all you're talking about. Now, some of the stuff I'll show you is a little different than that, and that's okay, because what I've done is try to grab their attention first with the graphic, and then the information is either on it or above it. But just understand that's not the most important. For anything you distribute, make sure you have the church name, the physical address, event date, times, anything else they might need to know. And you may have heard me say before, I keep emphasizing this because I've forgotten on time. At least once I just totally ignored that and didn't include it in a press release. Include a web address to a page specifically about this, and I'll talk about more about that in a couple minutes. You might use a QR code, for example, on a poster. That can work really well. Posts on your page. Multiple posts are the way to go. You don't have to put a lot of effort into it. Use the same background and add new information. Could be now coming every time somebody commits. So here's some examples. I just threw this together in a few minutes. I don't like the font I used on the right-hand side, but that's one of the reasons you double check them. And you always double check them against your phone, because that's where most people will see it. And that font on the right-hand side does not show up well on a phone. So anyway, pet festival in smaller letters, the details, but then veterinarian John Smith, what will John Smith provide? Sandy, you could have a couple of these on one slide, but this gives you a reason to show new slides. Now, as I look at that, I would probably have put the announcement part in a different color, maybe a red or something to make it really bold out. This is another one, and I put this in because most people don't think about that, but I'll bet you somewhere in your town there's a coffee shop that welcomes cats. They're a great person to invite. It's really easy for them to give away coupons for free coffees, that kind of thing. So they're great people. But then you will have places that can't give something away, like the no-kill animal shelter. Just say they'll discuss fostering or adopting pets. The canine unit will share what they can find. You got to be sensitive. When I first wrote that, it said, police K-9 unit will show you what they can do. And then I thought about, there was a thing on the news just recently about a canine dog being ordered to attack an innocent man. So yeah, so I think I left it confined. And that is actually a really intriguing demonstration. That always gets good returns, lot of interest. Another thing you want to do is build a Facebook event, which can be shared and has all the information. This can be updated as new commitments are made. And here's, and when you get the PDF on this, you just cut and paste this so you can see it. But this is an example of a church that does it frequently and does really good responses. And you can also do it on Instagram. And the reason these can be effective is Facebook shows them to a broader audience than your simple posts. Plus, you can have more information in very easily. And here's an example of what that one church does, Holy Family in Laurel Springs, New Jersey. This is one of their events that they did one of these on a Facebook event, and you have the title up there. And all the information. And then you're told how many people responded and all that. And I didn't get down to the information to get it all, but they have the time and the dates and all that kind of stuff up here at the top and again toward the bottom. Now, in their case, they use a jot form to ask for registrations. I like doing that because that gets you their contact information before they even show up, or if they didn't show up. So if there's a good reason to ask for it, but I'd also have made it clear you can come whether you register ahead of time or not. It also has, in addition to everything else, it also has the map, which helps people. The key to all of this is member sharing. If there's one thing that you're going to put some time in on, that's probably it. Because unless somebody shares, only a percentage of your followers will see your posts. You can do a wonderful post about your blessing of the animals, just something that meets all the things we've talked about, but only, and you get different numbers. Facebook won't tell you exactly, but a small percentage of your followers will actually see it. And that's because Facebook wants you to buy an ad. They don't want to do it for free. They want you to buy an ad. So recruit 3 to 5 people to promise to share them all. And shut-ins can be great for this. I keep on talking about what a great resource shut-ins can be. A lot of them are on Facebook, keeping up with their grandchildren, that kind of thing. Once you get a few people to share and comment is good. That goes not only to more of your members, but it starts going to lots of non-members. And the comment doesn't have to be a lot. It can be, this looks like fun. Will have my goldfish blessed, that kind of thing. And I have a training piece on this. Just ask if you don't have it or want it. Now, the next thing is something that's really helpful. If you haven't done it, I'll have an example here in just a second. But in your comment or in your actual post, you can put the @ and then the member's name, @John Smith. For anyone who has agreed to make sure they follow up, they share, and they comment on it, that way you're sure they get it. And you can do multiple names on each post. And as part of that, do @friends. That may go to all your people. Different professionals say, some say it works, some say it doesn't. It's very possible that Facebook is testing it and it is not available to everybody, but it isn't going to hurt anything. So I'd go ahead and do it. So this is what I mean. You just put the @ here like that. And what'll happen is when you type in @John Smith, assuming John Smith is a friend of yours, a friend of the church, they will get, that name will automatically go to a colored, you'll lose the @John Smith. It'll just say John Smith in a block that's colored. So it's going to them. This is what it would look like after you actually type in the names. It just goes to the name, and it's this is one I did. These are my brothers, and I just did at their name. Facebook groups, extremely, extremely important and easy to do. You can very easily double your reach with little effort at all. If you just put a little bit of effort. The key is finding and joining as many groups as possible. And this is just grabbed a quick one out of Mount Airy, North Carolina. Look for an LGBTQ group in your area. There's very likely to be one. But what I want you to notice is the What's Going On Mount Airy, and lots of towns have something like that, has 10,000 members. Events and Happenings has 15,000. What happened there? Has 15,000 members. There's probably a lot of overlap, but that means there's a minimum of 15,000 people that might see your post if you put it on the group. Go to your Facebook page, look for the group's icon, and on the computer, it's toward the middle. It's supposed to be multiple heads in a small circle. It doesn't look like that, but on your phone, it's just under menu. Type in the name of your town and join as many as are appropriate. Don't bother with yard sale groups until the church is doing yard sale. Type in, go out about 10 miles, type in all the surrounding towns, counties, join those groups. Look over their rules, their reason for being. Some won't have them. Some will just be open and you can go. Some will have them and they'll say your post will be reviewed by the administrator. There'll be some that won't take ads. A few won't take posts from churches. Get a church member to join and post. Some get upset if you post too often. I wouldn't worry about that. I take the chance and post anyway. If you notice here on the Mount Airy one, 5 posts a day, 10 posts a day. So your post can easily get lost among all of those. So you want to put it up, not the same one, but put it up more than once. Occasionally comment on other posts from the church page. You want to be a friend and not a drop-in advertiser. You can use that @ sign trick to get them to comment. Try at everyone. Again, that's supposed to reach everybody in the group. Sometimes it seems to work, sometimes it doesn't. It doesn't hurt. It isn't going to hurt you if you try it. And this is another great project for shut-ins. Another thing you do is have some fun. You have one member of the church, not the church, post something like this. My dog needs to be blessed. Any church is willing to try. That's the key thing. You're asking for recommendations about churches in the area. You have another member ready to immediately respond. You want to be the first one that responds. You don't want to be fourth on the list. And then they might ask another question, like, what time is it? If possible, another member responds to that. Anyway, you keep going back and forth. You build a little bit of a conversation. You have some fun. And every time the comment is made, that reapplies or re-shows. So you can have some fun with it, and you can also get a lot of attention. Again, great project for shut-ins. All right, this is the newest thing. Facebook and Instagram are very focused on reels and stories. Basically, what's happening is they're competing with TikTok. TikTok looked like it was going to be really successful, so they said we've got to do the same thing. What you want is short vertical videos, meaning you're holding your phone in a vertical manner, 30 seconds at most. And the thing to do is video a person with their pet talking about the pet festival. And you can do several. You can do them several at the same time, mentioning different aspects, different people who are coming, mention the stuffed animals, each time. you can record them all at the same time. Now, personally, I would change the background and maybe change my shirt so it doesn't look like I just did them all at the same time. But, whatever. Speak the information, including city and state. That's important because that helps Facebook know where to show it. And this is a little bit creepy, but if you say, Cary, North Carolina, they know that that's where it's important and they will try to show it in that area. But also put it in text on top of the screen. Again, that helps Facebook, but also some people learn by hearing it. Some people learn by seeing it. If this sounds too complicated or something, let me know and I'll put together a short presentation. You can post these on Facebook Reels, Facebook Stories, and Instagram. And again, sharing helps a lot. Liking and sharing is important. The more people who like and share it, the more Facebook thinks, hey, this is worthwhile. This is worth showing to people. If nobody reacts, Facebook feels it's a bore and they're not going to show it around. Paid ads. Everything from before this was free. I think putting a little bit of money in can be helpful, particularly for something like Blessing of the Animals. And $30 will reach 20,000 or more households. That's a lot of households for relatively little money. And there's a training video there. There's a link for it. The key, be careful on the geographic area. The default is nationwide. If you don't pay attention to that, your ad's being shown all around the country, and that's not much help. I would say 5 to 10 miles, probably no more than 10. I would rather 20,000 households within 10 miles see the ad than have it shown to people 20 miles away. My thinking. Specify interest, and you see this in the video. You can focus your audience on those who mention something to do with pets, dogs, cats, fish, pets, animals. Again, I would rather have somebody who ordered pet food see the ad than somebody who has shown no interest. And that's a little bit creepy, how much they know about you. Personally, I would show it from Monday through the day before your event. Again, this is my opinion. I don't think people are going to go out 3 weeks before and put Blessing of the Animals on their calendar. They might, but most people will react fairly quickly and respond fairly quickly. Nextdoor.com is similar to Facebook. They're even more cautious about ads running as a personal post, so you have to phrase it a little different. I plan to have my pets blessed. This is another one you can do what I talked about there, is you do something like that, and then another member responds and says, oh, where's that happening? Another might ask, will they bless a photo of my fish? Somebody responds. Comment is important here too. It really does show up every time there's a comment. Create several graphics or paragraphs and ask people to post them within their networks. They will overlap. So good to have multiple posts showing up. You could, again, have one that says, I plan to have my pets blessed. That's the lead. Another one, the lead will be, will anybody bless a photo of my fish? Something like that. If you go to the top of the Nextdoor page, there's a neighborhoods button. Open up all of those to get the widest possible distribution. The whole key is finding out who in your congregation is on Nextdoor and then asking them to help. We're talking about a couple minutes here we're asking them to spend. Other things. There are other social media platforms that I haven't mentioned. LinkedIn is a maybe. If somebody is already active and knows what to do, go ahead, do it. But I think it's a lower priority than these other things I've mentioned. It just doesn't get to as wide a group. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, second only to Google, who owns YouTube. So you'd think it's a good choice, but the downside is what I call a second step platform. Unlike Facebook, where we put the information in front of people, YouTube requires a person be searching for the topic. But you've already produced the reels and stories, and you can upload them. If you do that, there's down on the first page, there's a more, and under that is the tags. That means what are people searching for? Certainly mention your town, the name of every nearby town, because somebody could simply, key in Cary, North Carolina. Well, you want your thing about the blessing of the animals in Cary, North Carolina to come up. But also mention animals, pets, every kind of pet you can think of. So again, if somebody searches for dogs, you come up. I wouldn't eliminate Facebook tasks to do this, but if you have the person and time, go ahead. I don't recommend Google Ads for this. Like YouTube is a second step platform. In this case, you have to pay. But somebody has to be searching for blessing of the animals or something similar before you come up. Another thing to look at is a lot of particularly smaller communities have a community calendar. It may be on the town's website or Facebook page. Probably take you around 50. Where's your walker? This would be a good use of 15 minutes. I'm chewing Shirley out because she's walking around without her walker, and she just had her knee replaced, and she's not supposed to be doing that. Anyway, invites, direct approaches. We've all heard that the personal invitations are most effective, and it's really hard to get Episcopalians to go out of the way to invite somebody to Sunday morning. But inviting them to something like the blessing of the animals is a lot more intriguing. It's more people are more likely to do it, and it works best if you can give them something informative to hand out. I like a 3x5 card. It can be printed in the office on heavy paper. You want to use heavy paper so it's not easily lost. And that allows you enough room to include the interesting information. Personally, what I like to do is have a bunch of them, bless them during the worship service, hand them out after the worship service. And you can just use your Facebook post graphic and list several groups that are coming. Remind your members that all I have to say is, I think you might like this. I mean, it could be somebody walking down the street. I got 5 or 6 people walk by my house walking their dogs. Be very easy to hand them to them. Don't forget to invite groups that meet at your church, including your daycare and your 12-step groups. Now, what I would do with the 12-step groups is approach the organizer. You have contact with somebody in the group, and just say, would you mind announcing this? And some will say no on the whole, we don't want people to, privacy issue. But most of them, you're just giving them an invite and they come or not, and you don't know if they came because they're in a 12-step group. Posters can be effective if in the right place. Again, you have to grab their attention half a second from 6 feet away. The 6 feet away is important. People aren't going to walk up to the flyer and turn that off. I thought I had. And look at it, it's on the bulletin board. Think about where people are interested in your topic might gather, the dog parks, pet stores. General gathering places such as recreation centers or grocery stores are less effective, but worthwhile if you have the time to do it. Create a QR code directly to the relevant web page and include that on the poster. Strongly encourage all organizations to attend to share on their communication platforms. That's really, really, really important. If the veterinarian is coming, they're getting some free publicity. Encourage them, almost insist on them that they put it out in their shop, in their office, through their website, through their email list, whatever they've got. That should double your reach if every one of the organizations does that. And that includes people like the police. It includes people like the no-kill shelter. The no-kill shelter, the animal shelter probably has the largest mailing list of any of these groups. If they'll put out they're going to be at your church on such and such a day at such and such a time, That gets to an awful lot of people. And if you don't have my how-to paper for news releases, just ask me. For newspapers, a pet festival may be unusual enough to attract attention from the media. I recommend the last week in September because other churches will do this on the first weekend in October, which is the more traditional time, and the media will only cover one. There's nothing in our prayer book that says you have to do it at a certain time. Weeklies are your best chance, but don't ignore the dailies. The dailies are starting to be more locally focused. They've realized they are not going to compete with CNN and Fox News and that kind of thing on the national news. So they're trying to cover more local stuff. Weeklies are very locally focused. And as my how-to paper says, they're very likely to just publish your announcement verbatim because they don't have enough people to rewrite it. TV. Don't give up on those, especially in mid-sized markets and especially on weekends. They're looking for things to show. And again, they like to have some local story on most of their shows. You got to emphasize the visuals. When you're sending out, my how-to paper talks about this. You just say great visuals, talk about what it is. You got cute pets, which is something they're very interested in because it just makes a great visual. Be ready for them when they come. Have 2 people designated to be your spokespeople. Think about keywords that they should use, such as our love and concern for all God created. Very important. Remember, the TV will give you 15 to 30 seconds of airtime. If you talk for 2 minutes, they pick what they want to show rather than what you want them to show. And they may keep asking a question. You need to keep giving the same answer back. I had a case, we work with a community organization that seeks to end or reduce violent crime in High Point. It's been very effective. And one time I was interviewed during an event, and the reporter wanted me to say High Point was dangerous to live in. And kept on asking me that same, isn't it dangerous to be here? You know, that kind of, and I kept saying, we're safer than most towns in this area. And I just wouldn't let them twist me. And sure enough, that's what got on was the message I wanted to get across. Ask your clergy, may the TV film during the blessing service, and make sure all volunteers know the answer. Personally, I have no problem with it. Sunday service might be different, although most of us are now filming during some Sunday service. But certainly during the blessing service, I wouldn't have any problem with that. Radio. I know people just ignore this. And again, it's a lower priority for use of your time, but worth thinking about. Hundreds of people still listen to local radio, probably exclusively the AM band. So what you want to do, and again, great project for shut-ins, listen to local stations and pick those that, and this is really important, you want your church name associated with. There are a number of stations around here I would not want my church associated with. And ones that talk about local events, possibly with a calendar, which is going to be most of them, because, you know, AM's very locally focused. And just go ahead and send a news release to those stations that are chosen. Website. This is particularly important if you're doing posters, banners, anything along those lines. Make a simple, that next word is unique. Boy, I missed that typo. With the basic information and various pictures. No need to go into details. Again, you're just trying to get their attention. Your QR code should point to this page and not the front page. If you're forcing people to look around, you bring them to the front page, you got to find, they're going to leave. Outdoor sign or banner, the key there is remember the words have to be readable at 10 miles an hour above the speed limit to have the most impact, which means you're not going to get a lot of words in there. Yard sale signs, these actually can be effective if you have the budget. Basically, you put something up, you post them at the members' homes in the neighborhoods, but you can also do them like at a dog park or something like that, if allowed. It mentions the BOTA, but it also announces where their neighbor goes to church, which can be helpful. USPS will now allow you to send flyers to any postal route. These are the postal patron type mailings. And this can be good, especially in a new neighborhood where people are still getting settled. Work with the Postal Service to see if you can make the front page interesting, more than just a couple words. Have a graphic on the front, something that makes people want to look at it. I know when I get something marked postal patron, 9 times out of 10, I don't look at it. So you want to have something that's attractive. Again, grab their attention. Please, please, please. Remember, your goals are to have people attend, have people glad they came, have people learn about their church, and get their contact information. And there is the link to the last week's video that talks about all these things. And the one I'm just going to take a second and re-emphasize is learn about your church. The question I pose is, when people drive away from your church, they drive in, they drive away, what do they know as they drove away that they didn't know when they drove in? And it better be more than where your parking lot is. Do they know what kind of church you are? Do they know what you do to make the world better? Do they know what's going on with children? Those are the kind of information you want to get across. Next week, we'll be talking about the follow-up, which, as I've said, is actually the most important. You will always have a few guests at some point or another. And if you don't follow up, really good research says that of first-time visitors, guests on Sunday morning, about 10% are still active a year later. 90% have been ghosted and left. So if we can simply get those who are coming in anyway up to 30%, we've tripled the number of people that we made contact with. So this is our schedule. We've got the first 3 out of the way. Next week is building relationships and afterwards. And then on the 29th, I've added it. Some people have asked for this, a quick summary of everything we've done, and then just an open discussion. And most important, we want to pray. We want to pray. We don't pray that they be changed. We don't pray that they come. We pray that we be the people, the community that reaches out to them and makes them want to come. So we're talking about ourselves. We're not talking about changing them. All right. If you will unmute yourself, and we did have one question come in about Eventbrite. Eventbrite's a good one to do. If you don't know it, it just announces events like this. It's a good one to put up on. It doesn't hurt. The only downside to it is somebody has to be part of Eventbrite to get it. But no, it's one of those things. You've already done 99% of the work to get it on it. Use it. Use it. No downside to it. All right. Questions, comments? Hi, Catherine.
Hi. I just appreciate this so much. You're the one that says there's a lot of similarity, but every time I rehear it, it's just nailing it down. My question on this one is to that point. I like the copies of your slides, and I didn't see a link for these slides. I know there's a lot of similarity, but there are a couple of things that were different from the slides that I got the first time. I didn't get to see last week's because it was election day here. So will these slides be available with your recording? You are recording this, right?
Yeah. And I'll put them out. The reason I don't, I'll send you a final copy. Like there were 4 typos I'll clean up.
Yeah.
A couple of things I said that weren't on the slides that I'll try to add. So you'll get the final copy. I won't promise tomorrow, but within the next couple of days.
Perfect. That's super. Thanks.
And what I do is I'll send you the video, but I'll also put it up on YouTube. with that link. So if you wanted to show it to anybody, it's easy to do.
And I do. I've got a buddy at church, one of our deacons actually, who has said he'd help me with some of that. I said, I've thrown your name around a lot. And they said, please tell me that's not CRUZ. And I said, no, it's not. It's not. But he's willing to get in the harness with me and help. But he has obviously not seen all of these presentations that you've done. So I'm really glad to hear he can click on that and watch this at his leisure. Yeah.
And no, if he has any questions, call me. He and I, the three of us could just Zoom sometime.
Yes. I may have mentioned, I don't want to dominate with this. I'll shut up. We have an amazing opportunity. Our little church, because of its inside structures and its vaulted ceilings, we've been selected for our Tulsa Symphony to do 3 neighborhood concerts a month apart. Yeah. September, October, and November, I believe, and they'll be a month apart. And I really do want to parlay with you about really capitalize what's appropriate. These are going to be symphony guests, but they are using our property. So how we might have something, to capitalize on just the traffic. So we'd really like to talk to you about that.
Yeah, next week I've actually got someone to talk specifically about that kind of thing.
Cool.
And what I would do is have your contact card, and I'll show you a photo of what church does this, in the pews, so that you're not pushing people, but if they want to, they've got that opportunity. And the other thing you want to do is, and again, last week I talked about this a little bit, if you can do some displays about your church that aren't overwhelming, but kind of I really like, if you looked last week, I had a banner. I really like that. That could easily be in the narthex. It's not overwhelming, but it gets the point across. The only thing I would do to that banner, which I didn't do when we made it up, is I'd have a QR code on it. So if somebody was walking by and wanted to get more information, they could, just photograph the QR code. But that's the kind of thing, like we're having a blood drive at our church on Wednesday, tomorrow. Well, there's going to be 30 people who are non-members, all the Red Cross people plus anybody else that comes in. So you want to do something that, again, when they leave, they come to a blood drive, but when they leave the building, do they know something about you they didn't know walking in? So something like that banner, simple, low key, but gets the point across. You got, like I say, you got 30, you got the attention of 30 people. Let's not miss that opportunity.
Right.
Okay. Others.
As always, Ken, thanks so much. You gave me a lot of ideas, so that's good.
Well, I do want to emphasize what I said at the very beginning. It sounded like an awful lot to do, but really, if you start looking at it, there's not a lot of hours involved. So if, like Catherine was saying, you have somebody like a deacon or a shut-in or something that's willing to help, it's not a lot of work. It's a lot of individual things. Each one doesn't take much time. So you get an awful lot done for free before you even spend that $30. And I haven't said this publicly, but I'll say it now. If anybody does want to do paid, I will reimburse you $30. I will personally reimburse you $30 if you do an ad for the blessing of the animals. Just send me the request and I'll send you a check.
Ken, you're so generous. My gosh.
Generous heart.
Well, that's what my supply, when I do supply, I put that money into an account to use for these kind of things.
Wow.
So, I want to help. I'm passionate about wanting you to be successful. Julie, did you have anything? You're muted. Julie, you're muted.
Sorry. Thanks. I think I put in the chat box that I had to leave for a minute. I had a customer. Would you put something like blessing of the animals on Eventbrite? Have you familiar with Eventbrite?
Yeah, yes, I would.
As a free event.
It's free, but people have to already be looking at it for it to come up. But a lot of people do. So, and again, you've done 99% of the work to put it on Eventbrite. So yeah, why not?
Okay. Awesome.
Well, I don't want to drag you out and, like I say, be respectful of your time. Does anybody have anything else? If not, many blessings on all your efforts. And hopefully see you next week.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
We'll keep
Bye-bye.
Shirley in our prayers.
Oh, thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And me
We'll throw-
too. I'm the one that has to take care of her.
We'll throw you in too.
Well, do the therapy. I had a partial knee about a year ago, and it's just amazing. Now I go upstairs and I think, thank you, God. Thank you, Dr. Mittal. Thank you, God. Thank you, Doctor. It's amazing. You just got to get through the therapy. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
God
Thank
bless
you
you.
all.
Bye-bye.